All right.
I'm ready, baby.
All
You
right.
don't ask me. You got to be ready. You got to be ready. That's what's happening here.
That's right. Well, welcome to the show, Miss Robin Robbins. How
Thank
are
you.
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Doing well. She was asking me behind the backstage, what is this thing all about? What the hell are you going to ask me? I said, we'll just see where it goes, see where this thing goes. But how are
Can you
you?
take audience questions?
We can occasionally. I think on some of the streams, I think we can take audience questions. So if you're out there, please jump in and fire away with whatever questions you might have. Let me see if I can open this up to a couple more of these streams. Yeah, it's kind of hit or miss. This StreamYard plays well with some of the platforms, and then some of them it doesn't. So we'll see what we get. But so you've been quite busy over the last couple of months. I mean, when are you not busy? But I know you had your big event here. What is that about a month ago?
Yep.
Big boot camp, right?
Yep.
Um, what's the kind of general consensus out there about the market, the economy, and is everybody sky is falling, or is everybody pretty upbeat?
I don't know. I mean, do people need to know who I am, or should I just talk about why what they should do? I mean, do
Let's get
most people know
into.
who I am? I don't know. Like,
I
I
think
never
most.
assume that because I like to think I'm very famous. I have a big ego, but
I like to think that as well. All right, fine. We'll take a step back. Who are you,
Okay.
and where are you from?
Okay. Well, yeah, because Kevin, it's so funny because like I've been in the channel for 22 years, like working with, originally VARs, break fix, now MSP, it's kind of converted. And I do speak on stage, nowhere near as much as I used to. I got a team that goes out and they do that, but I always ask the audience, how many of you this is the first time you've ever heard of me? And believe it or not, like a lot of hands go up. And I mean, just if you're, I don't know if this is of interest to anybody, but we do marketing for MSPs. We focus primarily on North America and English speaking countries, not because I don't love my international brothers and sisters. It's just because it's a sales obstacle when people say, well, it's in English or it's American, it won't work here but we still have clients. I mean, like about 10% of our client base are international, like they're in Brazil or they're in Japan or they're wherever, right? And so, I've been doing this for quite some time. And yeah, you'd be surprised. I mean, we have this quarter to date, we added over 1,000 net new MSPs to our CRM, which shocks the crap out of me.
Wow,
Yeah, I
wow,
mean, because our database, we have about 45 right now today. It's about 45,000 MSPs. And like one of the things that you should know is when people give numbers and most of it's bad information. Oh, we got 303. There's not 303,000 MSPs in the world, right? I think we have a very comprehensive database, but there's still a lot of new MSPs that are starting up today. Believe it or not, we've seen an uptick in that. And so that's why, to start out, just to introduce myself, my name is Robin Robbins.
hmm
It's my real name. It's not a married name. And we specialize in doing marketing primarily for small MSPs. I mean, that's always been our sweet spot. The
hmm
startups to like 5 million is like our bulk of our customers. But today, being in the business for 20 years, a lot of our clients have grown up. So now some of our clients are, 10 million, 20 million, 40 million.
yeah,
There's not as many of those MSPs. 79% of the industry is under $1 million in revenue based on
right.
the data we have. But yeah, so we help them with marketing, but it's a little more than that. We help them with really what I would call business development. And most people don't know what business development is. And that's not, and I would also say to help them become real entrepreneurs. That's part of our logo,
Right.
Keep It Real, where they're building a rewarding, easy, attractive, lucrative business versus a tech business, which is tedious, exhausting, chaotic, and hard. And so
Right.
part of that is mindset. It's who's your target market, what are you charging, where's the value, all those things. So that's what we help people with. So I'll just kind of like lay that foundation. We have the largest peer groups in our industry, which I don't say that to brag, but just we have like 1,400 that are in peer groups, true peer groups. we have more customers, but those are in peer groups, and we get a lot of data coming back from them. And that's why I'm telling you that, because we get a lot of data, what's working, what's not working, our people are struggling, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I mean, from there we can launch off. There's trends I can talk about, what makes MSP successful and others not. I just want to kind of set the table there, make sure people know, like,
shame on me for assuming that everybody knows who you are, because everybody should know who you are. But I think that, to your point, right? I think this what's really great about this industry is that it's mature. It's gone through this maturing process, but you see new entrants every day. So maybe not everybody knows who you are, but the impact that you've had across the industry is pretty significant. I don't know if you can calculate the overall financial impact that you actually had on this industry by the work you do with the MSPs and helping them. You say like sales and marketing and strategy and some business development, but I think you've helped it. It might be getting too extreme, but you've changed a lot of these entrepreneurs' lives in giving them like really raw, direct feedback. And I think that's maybe something that and I think you're always direct, but I think that's something that's underappreciated at times about how you interact with your peer groups. I'd be interested to kind of pull on that thread, but along those lines. So you've been in this space for a while, but how did you end up in the IT channel? What's kind of the origin story behind this?
Yeah. So let me launch off that first piece too, because I do believe one of the things that we do is we give MSPs a bigger, bolder vision for what they can accomplish, and then give them the confidence and the capabilities to be able to get there. Because it's one thing, to be a rah-rah like I joke about it being, motivational speaker. That's what some of my family thinks that's what I am, which is perfectly acceptable because it gets me out of being invited to weddings and things I don't want to go to. So that's totally fine. Van down by the river, and I just, do that kind of nonsense just to, get them to leave me alone. But it is true that you want to give people a bigger, bolder vision, because when they come to us, they're looking for marketing. Well, why are they looking for marketing? Because they think, well, if I could get some better customers in the door or a few more customers, everything would work, right? And what they discover is that this is a complicated problem that they're trying to solve, and a few more customers might not be solving it. I mean, they might not have good systems and structure, because the minute we add a couple customers, they implode. Their pricing is underpriced. And that's because they're timid and scared about raising prices, and they don't know how to raise prices. They don't know how to package things. They don't know how to put together a service that is scalable, that's profitable, and competitive. They don't know how to do those things. So when we start to really unravel what they need, it's a much bigger thing. So we're giving them a bigger, bolder vision of what they can accomplish with their business, and then giving them the tools, the capabilities to actually get there. So how I got started, really, I don't know how far you want to go back, but I've been in sales. So I started
all the way back. Let's go all the way back.
Well, I mean, like, if you want to, so let me just kind of start like with business. So, from a business perspective, I worked at a company called CGI Systems, which a lot of people know, big, MSP VAR. That kind of got me in the tech genre, like a little bit, in that industry to learn it. And then from there, I was in sales. So I went to work for 2 marketing firms at that point. And I started to learn. So I was a very, very, and still a very, very good salesperson. That's my DNA, right? I've learned it. I've trained it. I've studied it. I've honed my skills in that area over my lifetime. When I learned the marketing, I had a mentor, Dan Kennedy, that I discovered. Dan Kennedy really was the first person in marketing that made sense to me, because I would read marketing books and all the rest, but none of it really, as a salesperson, what a salesperson wants is a pre-qualified, predisposed prospect who's predisposed to do business with you. We want a qualified prospect that's coming in and making the sales process not one where I have to do a lot of convincing and, wrangling, right? Because that's uncomfortable for you, the salesperson. So like Dan Kennedy was the first person who introduced me to this concept called direct response marketing, and really, how do you facilitate the sales process by using marketing, and marketing being the beginning of the sales process. Most people don't understand it. They think sales and marketing are two different departments. The marketing team thinks the sales team is a bunch of lazy bastards who cherry pick leads and don't sell and, are lazy. And the sales team thinks the marketing team is a waste of space, that they're busy putting together brochures, but not generating leads and all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both true. It's both true to a certain degree. So your marketing process really should be the beginning of your sales process, and your sales and all of that should be engineered to get a customer. And when you view the world that way, instead of looking at it like a technician I make things, I provide service, and you think of it operations, you look at everything through the operations lens. You have an operations culture in your business versus a sales and marketing culture. That's where you see a lot of non-growth. And that's where you see a lot of struggle too, because a sales and marketing culture will say, well, who is the customer we want? And then what are we going to build so that we service that customer wants to do business with us? That's the sales and marketing viewpoint. The technical mind is, well, what is the best technology I can put together? And operations and sales and marketing is kind of this bastard child over here that we only tolerate when we have to do it, So, I started out working for a couple marketing agencies in sales, learning the marketing side through that experience. And my actual, I had a relationship with CompTIA at the time, and through one of the agencies that I was working for. And I grew up in the sales, the MCSE CNE training world and certification. So I knew CompTIA, had a relationship there. And so when I started my business, which didn't start it with a grandiose view, I got fired from a job and I needed to make an income. And so I called every person I knew and said, hey, I'm independent, do you need anybody for some help? And so I pitched CompTIA on hiring me to do a training series for their members, because they're an association. Sales and marketing is always a big topic. I said, I'll do a good job. And I did a fantastic job. 6 months. I did monthly webinar. It's actually not webinars, it's teleseminars. It's not that long ago when you think about the tech, how much it's evolved.
Yeah.
And then that led to a lot of private clients. One thing led to another. And before you knew it, I said, hey, I knew I had to find a niche, a vertical. And I said, hey, this is it. And so I just planted my flag. I started the company, called it Technology Marketing Toolkit, because back then the URL name, the keywords in a URL were critical, and technologymarketing.com was taken. So I slapped toolkit on the end of it. And that was the company. And I started it, and started out with pretty humble beginnings, just creating the original vision was this. And so working for marketing and advertising firms, okay, most marketing and advertising firms that are out there are glorified fulfillment shops. And what I mean by that is, we as the agency, we would get a client that would come in. We would typically work with somebody who had a marketing manager and was doing some marketing, and we would do graphic design. We would buy media. We would buy lists for them. We were kind of like the tactical implementation of their marketing plan. Like most marketing agencies don't sit down with you, Kevin, and say, okay, let's talk about the vision of your business, your customer, the market share. Let's look at your competition. They don't do that. They're like, okay, let's run Facebook ads. Let's put an SEO plan together, right? So they're very tactical in their implementation, and that's fine for a bigger company who has a vision and they understand marketing and they have a sales team. But small businesses, they go to a marketing firm and they'll spend $10,000 a month, and their small business owners writing that check to them going, I want more customers. That's what you're going to bring me. And the marketing firm goes, we take your check and we do tactical stuff, but the strategy is really up to you. And there was this big disconnect, right? And so when I started the toolkit and I learned about the VARs at the time, now MSPs, but when I was talking to them, like, they don't have marketing people. They don't have salespeople. They have zero knowledge or understanding of what good marketing is, how it should work. They have nothing, right? So I was like, well, if I'm going to start a business, I got to go on the side of more of a consulting business. I got to educate them what good marketing is and how it works, so that they don't just write check after check after check, being disappointed, burned, more broke, more frustrated, more shut down. Like, I got to teach them what good marketing is, and then give them the campaigns, and here's the blueprints, if you will, because they don't know how to come up with those. And that's what the toolkit was. It was like, let me teach you what good marketing is, how it works. Then let me give you the templates, because you won't write them yourself. Let me give you the email campaigns, the landing pages, the web pages, and so that was kind of the start. And then, you start to realize when you're in like if I was working with you, Kevin, and I'd work with this guy and this guy and this guy, you start to find, okay, Kevin's really figured out something clever about, targeting libraries with this Wi-Fi solution, blah, 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 blah. He's making a lot of ground. Like he said, well, I learned that idea from you. I would go to my other 20 clients who are not competitive to you and say, hey, look what Kevin's doing. And they'd all go, holy shit, this is a great idea. Boom, 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 boom. And that was part of the value. It wasn't just here's an email. It was this higher level strategy. And so, that's peer groups evolved from there. But I really think the thing that differentiates us from so many other marketing firms, and now we're getting knocked off left and right, because a lot of people, I was the first. And now a lot of people, and a lot of them are clients of mine that have now gone on, sold their MSP, and now they're competing with us. But, I was the first to say, we got to teach you what good marketing is. We build a community of success-minded entrepreneurs that inspires excellence, encourages collaboration, and expands the capacity of all members to do great things. That's our mission. And, that really is in our DNA. So yeah, we give you a website, we give you, here's, postcards, and here's a trade show strategy or templates or whatever. But I think it goes a couple layers higher than that, so that, we're not trying to make, it's actually funny because we're not trying to make people dependent on us. Because if I teach you everything, you should be able to go do it on your own, which is my hope, right? But people stay connected. You would think that, well, if you teach them all the secret sauce, they'll go do it and fire you. But that's really not the case that happens. So anyway, I know I'm wandering around a little bit, but so CompTIA really was where I started, and then built from there.
No, it's great, and I think there are so many threads to pull on what you talked about. But I think one of the reasons why this is just outsider perspective, but one of the reasons why you have such an esteemed name, or such a large following, and probably such a large or strong retention rate, is that you're pretty matter of fact about this is what you should be doing. And I think there's tremendous benefit to people staying long-term, because if you have your ear to the ground with all these verticals, you're pulling in best practices, what's working in this industry versus what's working in that, my assumption is that people stay with you because this shit moves so fast. Everything changes so fast, and you're aggregating all these best practices, and we call them best practices, but you're kind of the choke point. And so I imagine people want to stay because it does move so fast. And so it's, you want to do that.
Yeah. And I think, there's a couple things that, I'm assuming people watching this are MSPs or people who give advice.
Sure.
And I think, one thing you said is you tell them direct what to do. People want leaders. They want someone who's competent to tell them what to do. And if you want to succeed in business, you got to know your shit, number one, right? You got to because people they're going to figure you out really quick today, right? So you really got to be a master of your subject, number one. And then number two, you got to tell people want to know what to do. I posted on my Facebook the other day, I heard a clip from Jordan Peterson, and he said, when people are presented with chaos, what I mean by chaos is infinite number of choices, and a lot of information that it creates anxiety in them. Where do I invest my money? There's all these different people telling me different things. There's all these different options. I don't have the time to research them all. I don't know what I don't know. And that creates anxiety, as I don't know who to hire, right? I don't know what to do. So what we all want is an expert, a guru, a wizard to say, be very confident with a good track record, said, here's what you got, and give you a straight path forward. So yes, we do that because that's what people want. If you're watching this, you've got to be that person for your clients as well. You've got to be the person who takes all the complexity out and says, here's what you need to do, simplifying it, right? You know, and I think the other thing as far as being relevant, see, the one thing MSPs have as an advantage is you guys have probably, other than maybe some SaaS applications, from a business to business services industry, you guys have the highest retention rate out of everybody. You're a utility. So, you know, you're only second to the utility company, like electric and internet providers and stuff like that. That is because it's very disruptive to switch IT providers, right? And so people will stay with you. So that is an enormous advantage. It's also your biggest challenge, right? Your biggest challenge is people stick with the IT provider. So knocking out the incumbent is tough. And so the reason I share that with you, if you look at what we do in marketing, marketing is not something that people like to spend money on. It's not something they like to do because it looks to them like a big giant pile of work. When it works, it creates more work, right? So like, you know, so for me, retaining members, where I'm going with this is retaining members has to be more than here's the new marketing template. You know, people stick around because there's a community here. They stick around because there is wisdom here. You want to be, to my mentor Nito Cobain said, you want to be transformational to your customers, not transactional. And that's another thing. If you guys write something down, write that down, because think about what are you doing to be transformational to your customers, not just transactional. Fixing computers and making it uptime and all that, that's transactional. Transformational is where you impact their lives on a deeper level. And so we're always trying to think about, and what we have to do is think about how do we provide extreme value to the point where they don't want to leave. Because again, going back to marketing, not everybody will say it's the area they need the most help. Everyone will say that's the weakest area of their business, all these things, right? But what are they doing about it, right? Nothing. Why? Because marketing is a spend that they see comes right off the bottom line. Like, in other words, like I have to pay I got to pay this light bill. I can't not work with lights, right? But marketing, I don't have to spend that money, you know? And so it's like gets cut. It's the first budget that when recessions hit across the board, research and development and marketing budgets, first things people cut when times get tough or they want, because it's not essential, right? So that we have that challenge. We also have, you know, the challenge of, honestly, you know, when it works, people go, oh my God, I got all these customers coming in, which means I need to hire more employees, which reveals my systems and processes suck, which reveals that I don't have good billing practices and I don't understand a finance and accounting. And it creates growth, creates the stress, right? And a lot of people don't want that stress. Their motivation for being in business is not to have a boss, period. It's not to grow to a 10, 20, $100 million year MSP, have a huge exit. Like they think small. They think, well, if I could just get enough customers to make a little more money, if I could just get enough customers, that's how they value. So when you talk about retention and what we do, I'm trying to teach as well as kind of, you know, you got to be transformational to people, because it's transactional. They're gonna fire you for the next cheapest thing when the wind blows, whenever. You got to be transformational, and that's what we really do work on. It's hard to sell that when people come to us. It's like, how do I get more customers? And that's the message when we sell a new member. But when we get them in, then we kind of reveal, here's all the other things that we need to do, fix, make you think bigger, make you think, have a greater vision for your business, have more confidence in yourself. You can do this. You have the capabilities. So much of what we do is inspiring and bolstering that CEO to their capabilities and self-confidence. Because if you don't have that, the other things don't get done.
Right. You know, I think if anything, COVID, you know, I love how you mentioned, or how you say that MSPs should be thinking about themselves as a utility, because you know, if anything, COVID proved that MSPs, IT industry is a utility. And I think so many have a hard time thinking that way, or, you know, having kind of the conviction or the, you know, the moxie to say, yeah, we are a utility. This is why we charge what we charge. And you kind of stand behind that. And that's
well, but I think they're utilities, but it's actually more than that. Okay, so if you now again, I think what happens is a lot of MSPs are small and they're dealing with small customers, right? I've had the advantage of being small. When I started out, guys, I had no list, no website, no money, like nothing. And I grew a business without private equity, without mentorship, without any experience in growing a business to where we are today, multiple millions, largest in the industry, growing like crazy, right? Top 1% in marketing firms in the world, not just in our industry, but from a revenue retention, all the things, right? So now that I'm at where I'm at, like when you get to target, when all of you watching this get to bigger customers, IT can be very transformative to that customer because as the CEO, I've got to monitor risk. You know, I can't be not compliant or have a ransomware attack, right? When you get bigger, saving money, like, okay, so for example, my current IT company came in and they said, okay, everybody's using Slack and Zoom. If we consolidate on Teams, we can remove Slack and Zoom. For most, we still use Zoom, a few of us. Saved us thousands of dollars, right? That was significant, you know, or remote workplace, make sure that these people are actually working or that they're secure or that our client's data is secure. See, like in coming to us with a budget, like we need an actual budget. I can't just say, okay, it's $2,000 a month. Great. Okay. I mean, we spend a lot more than that. We spend $20,000 a month. But you know, now like, hey, Vector Choice, I need a budget. I need to know this year because we're creating our budget. And so you become, now you're at a seat with the CEO, CFO, right? Because you're helping that company be more strategic in risk mitigation, in productivity, in cost control, all the things. But you're not going to get invited there. And, you know, you got to earn the right to have that seat at the table, which means you need to understand those concepts of risk, of real productivity, of cost savings, of budgeting. And, you know, if you're a small MSP and you don't know that for your own business, you can't do it for somebody else. So as you grow, I think there's a maturity you get to in your business and yourself personally, where you start to become, you can be more transformative to your clients because your skill sets grow, your experience base grows. And that's really kind of where, you know, smaller MSPs, I would say, Kevin, that's their utility. Larger MSPs, the ones that are going in and having these conversations about risk and compliance and security and productivity, they're a utility and they're a very, I think, transformative consultant to that CEO, CFO, right? I mean, it was like funny. I just wrote about this on MSP Success Magazine. You know, Kaseya just put their name on the Miami Heat Center, and you know, and candidly, they're my biggest customer. They're our biggest sponsor. But at first, and I said this to him, I said, I think it was a big waste of money. All right. I said that, right? Now my mindset's changing a little bit from the standpoint of now it's like, I understand at least Fred's vision where Kaseya as a name becomes more mainstream, which means that, you know, all the MSPs out there should have I mean, before it was like, okay, you're the MSP, go deal with the office manager, right? My office manager can go deal with him. Now MSPs have to have I can't talk to your office manager about risk and compliance and business strategy and budgets. Your freaking office manager can't make those decisions. So I think now MSPs are now elevated to that C-suite, and they should view themselves that way.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't value you're that way, then you are just a utility, which is not a bad thing. I need the electric, right? But you know, I think you want to step into the opportunities that are being presented right now to MSPs to elevate yourself to that C-suite and be more valuable to your customers. I think that's exciting. I mean, if I were in their shoes, I'd be like, that would be the direction I would be going.
Absolutely. I mean, to your point, getting transformative. So, you know, you establish a baseline that this isn't going away, it's needed, but then you become that strategic advisor and helping the growth. And that's kind of a point I was kind of getting to early on, right? Is that you look at it, there are new entrants to the space every day, new entrepreneurs that come in and say, I want to start a company. I'm tired of the break fix, or I'm tired of working for somebody, want to scale. And maybe often they're coming to you for, just the
How do I get a
marketing, the
customer in the
toolkit.
door? Yeah.
Yeah. Like how do I get leads? Right. But you just spent 10 minutes about, how you're transforming your customers' lives, but you can't do that until you transform your own business. And I think that's a lot of the impact that you have on these companies is it's transformative. It's not just about its leads, because to your point, you get to a certain level where you've got leads coming in, you kind of figured out the marketing thing. And it's like, oh crap, now I got to invest in infrastructure, and I got to find somebody to replace myself. That way I can go out and be more strategic. And so I think that's, just outsider's perspective. And I think that's one of the things that I appreciated, just being involved in the events that you guys put on. It's not just about the leads, right? You come from this position of authority. Have you ever stopped to try to quantify or think about how much of an impact you've had, just, economic impact you've had on this industry or your customers, bottom lines?
No, I mean, it would be great if I had some way of measuring it, but I don't. My friend Joe Polish calls me an industry transformer, because he likes people who go into an industry and make a big impact. And that is, that I think really is what, at the end of the day, that's really what's exciting. I mean, yeah, I want to make a lot of money too. I'm not going to stand here and say, oh, I'm doing it just for this why, because I want to transform people's lives. Because, well, shit, I could start a nonprofit if I want to do that. I don't have to be in this industry doing what I'm doing. So I do want to make money. So should you. There's no shame in making money. Money is a byproduct of value creation. Again, using my friend Joe, money is a byproduct of value creation. That's what it is. And so I earn it honestly. I earn it ethically. I earn it by providing value. But yeah, then beyond that, like that skill is transferable though. I could do this in this industry. I just was talking to my friend, Mike McAllowitz, invited me to speak to his, he has a group of CPAs, bookkeepers, and it was at Don Miller's estate here in Nashville. I don't know if you know Don Miller. He's building a story brand. So it was at his event, so it was Don Miller and Mike McAllowitz, who wrote Profit First. So anyway, I'm in there and I might as well have been talking to MSPs. The questions they were asking were the same questions, the same challenges, the same everything. So I could take this and go anywhere. But I think I really do like MSPs. Years ago, I picked this industry because I actually had done marketing for a lot of different industries. And here's what I like about this industry. One is they're very analytical. It's funny because when I bring outside speakers and consultants in, they complain about that. Like, I actually like that. And, they'll be like, oh, these guys want to ask me 10 million questions. And I'm like, no, but they're trying to understand, which I like, because there's an intellectual curiosity. I think because the way MSPs are wired, they have to figure things out and they're always learning new things. And so they're always trying to figure out the why. That's the way I think. So we align like peas and carrots, right? So that's one of the reasons. And I think the other reason I really like this industry is, from my experience, most MSPs really love to help people, almost to a fault, like to the point where they'll do stuff for free. They don't charge for it. They go above and beyond. And they don't get the recognition they deserve. They don't get the pay they deserve, right? And so a lot of me is like trying to stiffen their spine to say, look, you need to charge more. You need to, you are doing a valuable service. But they want to help people. And so they really have a heart of the helper, of the, I call them the unsung heroes of business, because, marketing always gets, marketing and sales, we get all the accolades in business because we're growing, we're right. The bookkeepers, they're nice people, but they're just reporting on what's going on. I mean, but the MSPs, the IT people, they're really behind the scenes. Everybody's yelling at them when things aren't working. Nobody's thanking them when things are working because they expect it. Well, things should be perfect. Of course, this is the default. Like you get no bonus point. So, I really appreciate that about MSPs. It's like a kindred spirit in a sense of the underdog, the unappreciated, wanting to help people, wanting to be a force for good. I love that about this industry. Not everybody is like that, but you know what I mean? But that is the clients I have, the ones that get along with me. That's kind of the heart they have. So anyway, I think this industry is much deserving of a pay increase and a much higher level of recognition.
So you're a household name in this industry, and I only bring this up because we in fact had a shark attack about 15 blocks away from us here. I think it was on Sunday. A 14-year-old girl got bit by a shark on the foot.
Like a real shark.
Like a real
I
shark.
thought you were going to
Yeah.
talk about the sharks at Shark Tank or something.
Well, yeah, I'm getting there, right? This is my long way of getting there, right? Because we had a real life shark attack 15 blocks away, up here in Stone Harbor, New Jersey, for the holiday weekend. But speaking of sharks, right? That was a long segue, almost worked. But you've done a lot with the sharks over the last couple of years, right?
Yeah.
And I guess what's the driver behind that? I mean, everyone loves it. I mean, you go to the events and to be around the sharks and just their drive and kind of contagion. I guess, how did that all come about? You've done so much with them over the last couple of years.
Yeah. So, one of the things, because we run events. So one of the things that there's a formula to what we do. All right. When you see one of our events, what we're presenting on stage is not random. It is very formulaic. So years ago, we actually had Robert Herjavec come and speak to our Producers Club members, right? And people raved. I mean, they told our members had been coming, said it was the best event they had ever been to, right? Mm. It was like a light bulb went off. It was like, I mean, we had celebrities before, but it just kind of was like one of those moments. I said, we're gonna have a celebrity at every Producers Club and definitely at boot camp every year, right? Mm. So that's one of the ingredients into the formula. So I had Robert. It was a home run. When Robert was in, I said to him, hey, would you mind, or would you be opposed to me bringing a small group of MSPs up to your office, the Herjavec group, which was up in Toronto at the time, just to spend a day there? And he said, sure. So we organized it, and we spent a day at his office, learning how he grew the business, talking to his HR, talking to his service manager, talking to his lead marketing manager, or CMO, talking to his top salespeople and his sales manager. And it was such a good event. Like, we went there. So that kind of formed a relationship with Robert. And Robert invited me to go to the actual filming of Shark Tank that is out in LA. And he said, hey, why don't you come out as a guest and sit there? And so for 2 days, I sat there and watched them pitch the Sharks. So I got to know Kevin a little bit, and Barbara and Mark Cuban, because you're right there. I mean, the set's not a big set. You're sitting there. So in between every photo shoot is they're about an hour long, and then they get a 15-minute break, and then they, and Damon and all that. So that sort of started a relationship. And, from then I've had Kevin multiple times at our events, Kevin O'Leary. I've had Damon John a couple times. Damon's a sweetheart. Mark Cuban, I haven't been able to get him, not because it was so funny, because I had a conversation with him about it, and I was like, he said it way better than I'm going to say it right now, but basically, I have so much money, I have no need to go speak at events. He said it but he said it very, very, I mean, I have no interest. I don't do that. So, I even talked to Kevin and Robert and said, hey, how do I get Mark Cuban? And they said, you don't, he won't even return our emails. So, you know what I mean? And so then I had Barbara and, Lori I've not had, because Lori's great. Don't get me wrong, but just, I have to pick somebody who's going to play with our audience, in the sense of like Barbara Corcoran ran a sales department. So she was great, and we're actually going to have her back. Kevin, obviously, he's invested in tech, and he's very good at talking business. Damon is more of the branding, marketing. He's very, very, very good at branding. And of course, Robert runs $1.5 billion year MSSP. So he knows the industry, right? So those Sharks, but we've had others, we've had, other celebrities, if you will, people, Peyton Manning, Mike Ditka one year, coming up at boot camp. I have another speaker. I don't know if I want to announce them yet, who we're going to have, but we've had these people, and, you got to pick somebody that the audience can relate to from a business perspective. Obviously, the Sharks, they're the real deal. That's the thing I love about them. They're actually operating businesses. They're the real deal. And they're always, Q&A, when you kind of figure a person out in Q&A, what they know, because anybody can stand up there and deliver a scripted speech, which a lot of people have. When you get them in Q&A, you start to realize, does this person know what the hell they're talking about? And so, the Sharks have I would say Kevin and Damon and Robert are like friends. I know them. Marcus Lemonis, from the Prophet, CEO of Camping World, Good Sam. So, you get to know these people, and they're great to talk to because they were small business owners at one point, but now they're big. And just the conversation you can have is phenomenal. So yeah, it's done very intentionally. Where we pick who we think is going to play best. So that's kind of how. And now, like Robert texts me, if he has questions about this industry, he'll text me, or Damon will text me. I'm trying to put something together for DattoCon in Miami, which I want to tell everyone, but I can't.
Come on, if you can break news,
no, I can't. It's not my event, and it would be under the magazine umbrella. But let's just say it's so cool. I might actually be able to pull something because Damon, Kevin, Marcus, Pitbull. There's like a bunch of people down there that I know, and it's all down in Miami, so I might be able to pull something off. I can't say though because it's not. You gotta watch DattoCon,
right.
Being in Miami is what's making it easy. So
awesome, that's awesome. Yeah. So I didn't want to be respectful of your time. Looking forward, right? I mean, what do you see in this industry? What's next for Technology Marketing Toolkit? Let's look forward. What's going on?
Well, for the industry, I think there's just every large, I coined the term super MSPs. Now everyone's using it like they invented it. But super MSPs being these big private equity backed platforms that are rolling up other MSPs, growing. I started a series, which we're going to make a regular feature, which we're calling the Titans of the Industry. And these are big MSPs. They're all like 50, 100, 250 million, right? And I've been interviewing them and engaging with them. All of them across the board said blue ocean. There's, especially in the co-managed space, because a lot of, the M and SMB, typically once you were big enough to hire your own IT department, you were quick to fire your MSP. They're now bringing that back in for labor shortage, compliance, security, all the things. So, but they're all very, hey, there's more in cybersecurity compliance. There's more opportunity than we're just scratching the surface. They all agree on that. So that's good. Okay. I do think on the downside for the smaller MSPs, I think they are going to have to figure out how they're going to compete with even just slightly larger MSPs who have the ability to deliver advanced security and compliance. Because just to for me as a business owner, for me to get a cyber insurance policy today is like, it's like I have to have, password protection and employee awareness training and 2-factor authentication turned on and everywhere and back. I mean, like as a business, like right now, the insurance companies are handing the MSPs the biggest opportunity in the freaking world right now.
Absolutely.
Right? Most of them are taking advantage of it. They don't even know about it. They're not talking to their customers about their cyber, security insurance, or even just their risk involved. Right. And I think the smaller MSPs, if they don't gain those capabilities and skills and services, they're going to kind of be left behind. Now, will there always be somebody who just wants antivirus slapped on a machine? Yeah. And they're going to be the small companies who don't want to spend money on IT, who go literally say something like, well, if I get ransomed, I'll just throw the machine away and buy a new one. Start like literally. I'm serious. This is there's always going to be those customers, and the ones who don't learn these more advanced cybersecurity compliance safeguards that's who you're going to be left with as a customer base, right? Commodity, like cheap commodity. To go upstream a little bit more, I think that's the challenge, if you will. I think for MSPs, because we're working on it very much right now with our members to try and teach them what is compliance, what are you delivering, where are the legalities, there's a lot to this. It's not a simple thing, and that's the challenge, I think, for smaller MSPs, and why a lot of them aren't doing anything is because it is a big, complicated area that's constantly evolving, constantly changing. It requires a deep expertise. And so we're right now, I think, again, everything's a two-sided coin. It's a downside. It's an opportunity for those who do. You're going to go upstream, get better, higher paying customers, because somebody who has to be compliant and needs that, they're going to spend more, right? They're going to spend more and they have to spend more. So I think, that's kind of for this industry, compliance and cybersecurity, green lights all the way, get some. It's very competitive, 100%. As far as our company goes, we're just following that trend. We're also building out the media side. So Big Red Media, my goal, my vision is to become the most influential media company in the channel for MSPs. And so we're on our way of doing that. I mean, that division alone does 10 million in revenue, and everybody in it is part-time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think we have a lot of blue ocean for us. So now it's part of me is building that team. And what that division does, just so people are clear, is one division is the MSPs and marketing for it. Then there's all the vendors in the channel who want to get to the MSPs. There's a lot of money there. I mean, at our boot camp, we have a wait list of sponsors, and we had 95 sponsors in the hallway, and there's new ones coming all the time. And so those new vendors are coming to us for, I mean, you know that from what you do, but they want, speaking spot at an event, or they want an article written about them. And so we're building that out to be an agency that does marketing services for the vendors from the standpoint of lead generation, or even event management and sponsorship, helping with that, because we know how to run events really well. We know how to manage the sponsorship piece and sell the sponsorship piece. And the idea is, I'm telling you my trade secrets now, is if we can own the sponsorship for events, we become the biggest media representation, and we can go to companies like American Express, Bank of America, and say, hey, you need to sponsor our event because we represent this much of the channel. So I see that almost as a bigger opportunity, or as big as what we've built on the other side, in the coaching and done for you marketing and CRM services that we provide.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I can, try to be neutral in all of my interviews, but I can attest to your ability to drive visibility for vendors. I mean, with ID Agent, as we were launching, you were kind enough to allow us to participate in the events. And I think over the years, we signed hundreds and hundreds, if not 1,000 partners from those activities. I think one of the boot camps we did pre-COVID, I think we signed 86 new partners under ID Agent, the dark web ID product. So it's a testament to your ability to bring both sides of this industry together, and it helps the vendors, it helps the channel both succeed. So you've done quite a job, one hell of a job, in fact, of being both sides of this marketplace.
Yeah. Well, they're the yin and the yang. I think, the fact that and I think that's the other challenge for us as a media company, is not to bastardize our list, and not to just promote anybody because they can write a big check. Right. So, with all vendors, we vet them. There are some vendors we have thrown out because of bad behavior, complaints. And we always try to work. So like, look, if members are complaining about a vendor, we try to make peace. Now, I can't make the vendor do what we recommend, but we and by the way, all vendors, like, it happens with all vendors. There's every vendor that we have in that hallway, I have had a complaint about from somebody, and we behind the scenes try to connect them with the right person and see it through. So we're trying to knit that together, but we also don't want to bastardize our list, and because our events, I mean, we could I hate to say this, we could turn into like an ASCII event where it's just vendor. And there are times when that's appropriate, right? Like if that's what you're signing, because we have things called demo days, and that's all it is. You sign up and you're sitting on a bunch of demos, right? And it's going to be, but customers know that going in. So it's always that balance, because I think as a media company, there's and I mean this, there is literally no end to the people who will write us a check to send out an email about them or do a webinar to our list. And at the same time, though, we got to make sure it's not just the check, but the content's good. It's valuable, it's relevant, it's not boring, it's not a waste of time. And believe me, those vendors need a lot of help, as you know. I mean, they don't sometimes they don't understand the MSP and the message. You got to kind of help them say, look, this is not, that dog ain't gonna hunt. You can't say that to them. This is what they're going to think, right? So there's a lot of coaching that goes on that side to make sure they can get the most play out of the MSPs.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you've done one hell of a job. The impact you've had on this industry is nothing short of impressive. And
thank you.
I, for one, look forward to this announcement. I thought you were going to break some news here on my
I can't because it's
here,
not my news. Yeah, it's DattoCon's news. So
fair enough.
I'm working it, so I don't want to say.
Good news is I got Fred next week, so maybe I can twist his arm next week. How about that?
Well, he'll tell you anything. I don't think he can keep secrets.
Well, look.
But tell him, what would you tell? I mean, I don't know. I want the announcement to come out. I'm putting it together. I'm trying to put it together because it's one of those things that I think one thing I'm very good at is figuring out how to connect dots on things and bring things together and put myself in the middle of it. You know what I mean? Even though it's not my event, but figuring that out so I can get the advantage of being the connector. And that's a marketing lesson too, guys. If you could be a connector of people and you can, help people, even if there's not monetary gain, just being that connector, right? Is super valuable, being that source. And so that's what I'm trying to work something like that. Yeah. I'll just leave it at that.
Awesome. All right. So what's the best way to get a hold of Technology Marketing Toolkit? If you're a vendor, if you're an MSP, what's the first step?
Well, if you're a vendor, bigredmedia.com is going to be the best place to go. We got information about our events and services there for people who want to sponsor. And then just technologymarketingtoolkit.com. We have the URL, the marketing team, because we transitioned our name from with the RR logo, which I still sport because it's me, but to TMT, which is the marketing team, the money team, the motivation team. So because I wanted to build the brand to be beyond me, with what we're doing. So you can also go to the marketing team, but technologymarketingtoolkit.com. You can sign up there. You can also go to our magazine, mspsuccessmagazine.com. Tons of free content up there. You can. There's stories and interviews that we've done with titans of the industry that are coming up that are just great content, webinars, and it's all up there, and it's a free publication. So I would go MSP Success Magazine as well.
Awesome. Well, Robin, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining me this week, and encourage everybody to go out and check out these properties. We'll have links in the show notes, and I really appreciate you, and hopefully you have a kick butt 2023 and beyond.
You too, Kevin. Thank you, and I appreciate you having me, and everybody else out there. Lots of success.
You got it.